Welcome back, dear listeners, to the Fright or Flight podcast, where we rank, recap, and review a horror movie in a given franchise. I'm Geraldine, the Fright of the podcast. I watch horror movies. I love them. It's my thing. Anyway.
I'm Frankie. I'm scared of horror movies. I'm the Fly of the podcast. Geraldine, you know, I've been scared of a lot of things, and I don't think this movie is one of those things.
This movie is not one of those things.
It's not super scary.
Either. No, it's more comical than anything.
You know, you say that to me, it wasn't super comical. For me, if any of it was, I think to me it translated more as like, it was messy. Like I really
very messy.
Yeah, I didn't understand a lot of what the movie was trying to do.
So what movie are we talking about again?
We're talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. Directed
by Kim Hinkle, written by Kim Hinkle and Tobe Hooper. It almost just feels like, well, also it was released in 1995, so it's a 90s film. We're in a new era of horror. So
that's right.
It almost feels like she just recycled everything that was written in the original script and just made it her own.
Kim Hinkle is a man.
Kim Hinkle, I don't know. You can be whatever you want.
But yeah, I think this movie does have a lot of things that we covered in the first movie. In general, I do think that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films are repetitive.
I made that note in this movie several times.
But this one, I do think looked at the first one directly and tried to recreate a lot of it, kind of in a 90s sense of style.
Yeah, and we got the same like repetitive opening scene where it's narration and words about whatever had happened. I was already bored.
Can I talk to you about this? Because this doesn't make any sense to me. Okay. Because in every one of these films, it starts off with that, right?
Yeah.
Like, 10 years ago, there were these awful killings. And then by the third one, it's like 10 years ago and then 3 years after that. So these movies keep a thing in at the beginning of each one of them to let you know that this is the same world. The events of the previous films happened before the events of this film. However, each of the films feature like a family. And it's a different family each time.
Yeah.
So we're meant to believe that this is the same Leatherface across each one of these movies. It doesn't really make any sense that
I just don't understand if that is the case.
And they just do the same thing in each one. You know what I mean? Like if he has a different, if Leatherface is the only constant across all the families. So is Leatherface jumping from like, this is my family and now this is my family? Because at the beginning
has attachment issues. It's fine.
Yeah, at the beginning it's like, hey, those things are part of this thing too. But when you think about it, it doesn't make sense. Unless the only thing I could think of is all these killings are like the same thing with different people each time. So like Leatherface is a different Leatherface each movie. And there's just like a bunch of families out here that are killing people every
They're just competing
years.
For the best family in Texas, y'all.
Yeah, some chili face-off kind of thing.
Yum.
No, it's cannibalism.
I don't know why I said yum.
No yum.
But I don't know. I'm not a fan of this one in particular. Like just the Leatherface himself, he's okay. I was not impressed with the makeup, the masks. A lot of the time, I did like the grandmother mask. That was pretty cool. I was like, okay, I can get behind it.
I like the last outfit that Leatherface was in the film.
The final one, I agree. Yeah. But also, between that one and the original film, because they copied that sequence of outfits from the 1974 film.
Right.
But I prefer the 1974 masks.
I do too.
To that,
and while we're talking about Leatherface, I feel we should cover that this movie doesn't feature a lot of him.
It doesn't, but they all. This one is not called Leatherface or anything like that. It's simply just Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. But what is the next generation? Is it just talking about we're entering a new era of horror? Like what does that mean? I'm
not sure, but I did find out that that wasn't the original name of the film.
Oh, I love that.
It was initially called Return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But at the time, two of the lead actors, Matthew McConaughey and what's her name?
Renee Zellweger.
They became popular after the film had already premiered. And then they changed the title, including The Next Generation, and plastered their faces on the poster so that they can get some of their stardom going along with the movies to get people to come out and see it.
Makes sense. I mean, this was Renee Zellweger's first film.
Oh, was it? Mm-hmm. So I have heard that name before.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar.
Have you ever watched Shark Tale?
No.
You've never watched Shark Tale, like the animated movie? She's one of the voices of one of the fish in the movie. She's known for the Bridget Jones trilogy. It is now a trilogy. It's like Bridget Jones's Diary, Bridget Jones's Diary, like The Edge of Reason, and then the third one is Bridget Jones Has a Baby or something like that.
Right. In this movie, she plays a character named Jenny.
I like her character a lot.
She wears glasses, so she is like the nerdier one.
Which is so dumb. Why does having glasses make you a nerd? Just because we can't see. That's a hate crime. And then also, her glasses get taken off her face at some point in the movie. That's so mean.
I'd be screwed.
I would be too.
Would you? I don't know. What is your eyesight like?
I'm very nearsighted, but I have an astigmatism in both of my eyes.
Right.
So like, I take these glasses off, everything is blurry.
How long have you been wearing glasses?
Since the 4th grade.
Really?
I knew I had a problem when I sat at the back of the classroom. I thought it was cool if I sat in the back of the classroom, and I couldn't read the board.
So, are you more of a glasses versus contacts person?
No, I don't have a preference. I'm down to do whatever. Glasses are just easier because I'm lazy.
Same. Yeah, same thing. If I didn't have my glasses, I wouldn't be able to do a thing. Yeah. Probably wouldn't be safe to drive.
If I could afford LASIK.
Oh wow, you do that?
I think I would. Yeah. Just because it'd be easier to not have to worry about contacts or glasses.
But it's so scary because they like pry your eyes open and shoot a laser into them.
Ugh.
Yeah, I know. See, I wouldn't do it.
I'd have to be put under it, and I don't want to remember a single thing about it. I would be like, people would be like, "You had LASIK," and I'd be like, "What are you talking about?"
Another thing about it is that I feel like I don't want to be like changed permanently. Like something about that scares me.
There is that risk because what if they fuck it up?
Yeah, that's true.
That is true.
But yeah, she plays a character named Jenny. It's also my favorite character out of all this.
Out of all the movies,
there's 4 of them.
Yeah.
Oh, out of all the movies,
I think she's the most hyper-aware character we have ever gotten.
Yeah, you're right.
Other than Franklin. Franklin was right up there too.
You know what? Yeah, she can't be mine because Franklin's up there for me. I do want to say that I think the group of 4 that we got here are the most characterized.
Yes.
The most full of character and full of personality.
I hated the rest of them so much.
Oh, really? All of them?
And not Sean. Sean was fine. We didn't get
we
to know
don't know
him.
anything about Sean.
We don't really get to know him much. But the other 2, I despise.
I did not mind the other lady. What's her name? Rachel?
Heather.
So Heather, I don't mind whatsoever. I like Heather because she had a like. Have you ever seen Little Women? Yeah. Florence Pugh's in that.
No, not that. Not the newer iteration of it. I did see the
in that film. I know it's based off a book, so if you're familiar with the book, maybe you'll know that part too, where Florence Pugh's character comes out and says something along the lines of like you're shaming me for marrying this man who, you know, I as a woman, especially for the time, you know, it's like set in like, I don't know, the 1800s or something maybe, like that. Maybe even before that, you know, she doesn't have a lot of rights. So one of her only, you know, ways to claim the lifestyle that would be, you know, prosperous for her would be to marry somebody that other people might not, you know, be interested in. And she said, like, what shame is there for that for me, who has not many prospects? You know, who are you to judge me as a woman for that? And I think Heather reminded me of that in this film, where her boyfriend is a complete douchebag, and she make
fucking worse.
He really is.
Like, I was praying for his death. I was like, I hope he goes first, and I hope it's gruesome. But you know what? We didn't get that gruesome death. He just got like bonked in the head.
It was very interesting for me. So like I said, I like Heather. You know, she knows what she's in for. Like, people think she's stupid,
right?
But I think she's confident, and I think she's aware of how crappy her boyfriend is, but she's willing to put up with it because she wants a certain lifestyle. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
There's not anything wrong with it, but it is kind of a sad realization.
Oh yeah, totally. That's why I sympathize with her.
Because like you're like, you could do so much better. Because she's also very smart, because she's like, oh, you know, like this true crime stuff. Like, she's knowledgeable about the things that are like happening.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah, okay.
She reminded me of you.
No,
I watched this movie. I was like, Heather. She's like you know, she's like hyper aware of like she's making all these references to like true crime, to like horror movies, and then like she talks to her, you know, crappy boyfriend about like how I'm not stupid. I'm aware. I'm just doing what I have to do. This or that.
Are you calling me stupid?
I'm not. I'm saying you're not stupid, but I feel like sometimes you may feel a little that way.
About myself? Yeah, I mean, I say really mean things to myself.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not that I don't necessarily believe them. I don't know. I just degrade myself. Yeah. But No, I did like that. I was like, okay, so she's very aware of these things because I kind of use like horror movies as like my survival guide. I'm like, I ain't going down that dark alley. I've seen too many horror movies.
Exactly, yeah.
Because you know what happens in dark alleys. You get killed.
Not good things.
Not good things.
Right.
Nothing good can come from being in an alley alone or like in the backwoods of like Texas alone or with a shitty boyfriend who obviously doesn't care about her or her feelings. He literally, he also, can I just say, he says some crazy ass shit.
He really does. And I was, at the very beginning of the film, I wasn't sure if it was like, are the filmmakers self-aware of like how bad his behavior is, or is it another one of those things where like this was written and directed by a man who, you know, their sensibilities aren't aligned with like reality or whatever. They have a very like male perspective.
I just think the dialogue written was also not very natural to me a lot of the time. So it just felt very forced. However, again, the actors are doing what they can with what they have. It was just like icky. He's like gaslighting her, but also I love this scene so much because we open on like the prom and Renee Zellweger's character is, I love this opening scene, even though I'm still kind of confused as to why we had it, unless it was just in reference to the Pretty Woman mask that we later get. But Jenny, played by Renee Zellweger, it's a close-up of her putting on lipstick, red lipstick.
Okay.
Love this shot.
Yeah, I love it too.
Love that shot. That was so cool. And then she like freaks out and wipes it all off. And I was like, why did she do that? Weird.
I think it's because of like her character is supposed to be a little like kind of a horror movie cliche.
Modest.
Yeah, very modest, says like a little shy.
But we find out it's prom night. They're taking photos with the fun industrial sound. So they had that.
Yeah, they
in
did
there.
have that. Yeah, I did enjoy that.
That was fun. And then I have to mention this because I was like, what am I watching right now? So they're at the prom and we meet Heather, but we don't know her name yet. And she's like, where's Barry? And she asks this random teacher who looks like is running an admission stand with tickets or something. But I know that's not how prom works, so that wouldn't work that way. And she's like, I thought you guys broke up, and was being weird about it, being nosy. But you know teachers find out all that gossip. You know they do.
That's right.
Anyway, her friend was like being so weird.
I don't know. I was so sure that this was kind of come back up later in the film because the performance was so like, oh, something's going on with her. Yes. But no, it has nothing to do with the movie.
The girl was like overacting, and I was like, is she just a really bad actor, or is this like something that we're gonna find out later? Like,
I think that was probably just the direction. I think the director wanted that out of her.
It was so
because it's completely unnatural.
It was completely like she was like. Almost, it looked like she was trying to have like a panic attack or something over this teacher, and I'm like, "What is happening?"
I thought it was gonna come back.
I was like, "Is this supposed to be like funny, or are you
we never
supposed to be,
see
like,
that
nervous?
character again?
Never again. Never caught her name. Nothing. She was just like."
She was like in a William Shakespeare play. Like she was like moving her hands and being like dramatic.
So dramatic
for so long.
She wanted her 15 seconds of fame. It was fine. Horrible actress, by the way, but it's fine.
Wow.
Then we find Barry, and he's making out with some woman named Brenda, and she's also a horrible actress. I don't remember exactly what she says to Barry when he leaves, but she's like, "So go be with her then," but like had no expression on her face. I was like, "Where's this? Where's anything? You're giving me nothing."
I will say, at least for the main cast, I feel like they do a pretty good job. Like Barry, he's great at doing what his role
because
is.
We hate him successfully.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like you can do a good job if you can make people hate you. Heather's driving like a maniac, and then Barry gets in the car, and then he's gaslighting her, and he's like, "I can't believe how possessive you're being. I can't have friends."
Yeah,
we know, like, well and good that you're not gonna make out with your friends.
And also perfect, like oh, my dad's a doctor, a person of some stature. I would know these medical things that help
if I don't like release, I could get prostate cancer.
Yeah.
Which, first of all, prostate is your butthole.
Yeah.
Not that, but whatever. I digress. When this was happening, Jenny and Sean revealed themselves in the back seat. I was like, oh, interesting. Why are they there? But go for it.
Apparently they were smoking. Oh. They were smoking pot, I believe.
Well, Jenny was very hyper aware of the situation. She's like, he's lying to you. That's not true. Like I love this.
Yeah, I love it too, because that's what makes me think the filmmakers are self-aware with Barry being how crappy he is. Jenny's there to be like, hey, he's manipulating you. And he's there kind of giving some therapy.
like this confrontational like energy. I just love it. They're like, you're a liar. He's lying to you. He's making you feel bad about yourself. And I was like, I love this.
At this point in the movie, I was so high. I was like, not, off drugs, but like so high on the movie.
Wow, I can't believe you got high.
Thinking that, I don't do that. But I was thinking that like, oh wow, the dialogue is like up a notch. Like the filmmaking up a notch. Maybe now that we have Matthew McConaughey, I don't know about him, but I know he's a big deal.
He's a great big deal.
So I'm thinking like, oh, maybe we've moved away from like indie horror movie making and more into like a Hollywood or blockbuster kind of thing. Because the quality just seems so much higher, and also the accessibility seemed a lot broader. But that doesn't stay for long.
No, it doesn't. It really plateaus.
Yeah, it really does.
We were going really strong for maybe a good 30 minutes.
The script is great. I think like you're saying, that car scene, them going back and forth to each other, was great. I enjoyed it.
I did too. I was like, oh, I'm really liking this energy right now. Okay.
But for me, it becomes a completely different film once Matthew McConaughey's character gets introduced.
Once they meet that random woman, I think her name is Darla, is what you find out later.
Fantastic name. I love the name.
Yeah.
Darla.
It makes me think of Finding Nemo.
Dory?
No, Darla, the little girl who shakes the fishy bag.
Wow, you really remember these animated films, huh? And
I love the animated films. They're fun, and also I also have a niece, but I grew up watching them multiple times. But I loved it because my family and I we quote it. My mom does it too. But we all like the fishy. Why are you sleeping? It's just funny.
When she kills the fish?
No, he pretends to be dead,
okay.
so that she'll think that he's dead, put the bag down, and then he can get flushed or something, and that's what happens. So then he's like, okay, that's his escape plan.
Okay.
Exactly. Everyone.
Yeah, I'm sure you remember it better than I do.
I do. I just recently watched it again. It's so good. But yeah, that's what I think of when I think of Darla or Little Rascals. Yeah, The Little Rascals, the movie.
Okay.
Darla. Yeah. Dear Darla.
What is her position? What ends up happening is they get into a minor car accident.
Minor?
I would say it's pretty minor.
They got T-boned, kind of. Or almost like, it was like perpendicular. Here's a car.
It looked like they were going 15 miles an hour.
Okay, but that wouldn't, I don't know. It felt more harmful than just 15
it definitely
miles an
felt
hour.
that way. I'm just speaking like visually, like obviously the other gentleman is hurt. He needs some help, so they have to go get help. But in order to do this, they have to walk a long distance on foot.
Yeah.
And they come across this lady's office, who they then ask for help and use her telephone.
And it's Darla, and it's really confusing because at first I thought they were like they found a sheriff or something. Kind of like in like the previous films.
I was wondering, what does Darla do? What's her job?
I don't know.
Do you have any idea?
She's probably the town hoe. I don't know.
I don't think that's a job that
she could make money.
Yeah, I just don't believe like she'd have an address and like this nice desk to pursue that venture in 1995.
Probably not. I have no idea. Why would you have this little like office for no reason?
And she wears a really nice blazer, very 90s purple blazer that I enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, she looks like an official businesswoman.
So I just wonder, did they never mention like what?
No, but we do find out later that she has a husband, but she's like willingly like with Vilmer, who we find out is the villain.
Yes.
Ironic. And it's played by Matthew McConaughey.
I did, as soon as like we come across Darla, I did think like, are we doing the thing again? Like in the first one where we meet.
Yeah, and they're in on it.
Yeah, and they're in on it.
Which
I wasn't sure. I do think Darla's character is very interesting.
I think she's more of a victim to everything that's happening though, because trigger warning, it is like domestic violence, the relationship that she has when we find out what kind of relationship. I thought maybe she was like a sister or something involved, like a family dynamic.
Originally, yeah.
But they changed it up, and I kind of liked what they did with the family dynamic. A little bit different, like toxic roommate, toxic relationship.
Yeah.
Kind of situation. Right. It was interesting.
But anyway, Darla calls and says, "Oh, here, I'll help you. I'll call this gentleman. He'll come assess the person that was in the car accident." Mm-hmm. She then proceeds, I guess somebody throws rocks in her window, and for whatever reason, she comes out to the window and she flashes whatever kids were messing with her like that.
Yeah, like straight up, just literally lifts up her shirt, no bra, just straight titties, and I was like, "Whoa."
I wasn't sure like what this was about. Like, why did she do that?
I don't know. I have so many questions. This is where it starts like plateauing, truthfully.
Yeah.
And I was like,
well, yeah.
yeah. I was like, what was the point of that? Yeah. But I mean, other than, horror movies, they got to throw in boobs when they can.
I struggle with that so much.
I don't understand it, but
I don't understand it. But boobs are boobs. So I'm like, but yeah, they have no reason to be there. I think it's a trope at this point. Like, hey, let's just throw them in there where we can.
Probably.
But it makes no sense to the plot whatsoever.
Yeah. So then when they venture out, I know that they made a reference. We were talking about the true crime thing. Heather makes a reference. And it almost sounds like she was referencing Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
But she said Chicago, but she got like the details.
Did that not take place in Chicago?
I don't know. Is Milwaukee no? I'm not gonna finish that question.
Is Milwaukee in Chicago?
Shut up. I'm bad at geography, friends. I'm really bad at geography. I don't know where anything is ever. So
right.
Like we had this conversation.
Did we?
Yeah, about GPSs.
Oh, that's
I would be lost without anything like that. I don't know if you tell me where something is, and you try to explain directions to me. I'm gonna black out as soon as you say it, and then I'll be like, "What?" And I have to use my GPS anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Fair enough. But I think that is what she's referencing.
It's in Milwaukee, which is not in Chicago. I'm stupid. So sorry. Anyway, also it's really funny because they're in the woods and they're talking about all of these things, the banter back and forth, whatever, and they have this flashlight, but you can tell it's clearly lit. And they have this flashlight, and they're like, "I can't see." And then I just think it's really funny because it's like
it's hard to shoot in the dark. I mean, we saw in the first movie they had a whole extended scene in the woods where it is dark.
Yeah,
and we couldn't see a dang thing.
Yeah.
So I much prefer this, where
it's just funny because it's like you can actually see what's happening, but then they're like reaching for the flashlight and stuff, and I'm like, you can see it.
Well, Jenny, Barry, and Heather all came out to this office. Sean stayed behind with the other gentleman that was having a medical issue.
Yeah.
And when Vilmer was called up by Darla, who was Matthew McConaughey, he eventually shows up, snaps the other victim's neck.
Yeah, apparently that guy, his name in the credits is "I'm not hurt" because that's the only line he has.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So "I'm not hurt" was killed by Vilmer's character immediately. He's like, "This man's dead," and Sean's like, "No, he's not. He was literally talking in his sleep."
Yeah, Sean has a problem. I feel like he's not really good at assessing danger. And when he was starting to run for his life, he insisted on keeping on the trail. Like he would not move off the road when Matthew McConaughey's driving a vehicle, as well as having chatter with him. He would be like, "Hey man, do we really have to do this?" And just sit there next to him. He's the first one to go, aside from the other character that we had the one line.
And he had a brutal death
That we never got to see, really. We
got to see Matthew McConaughey's reaction, which I felt made me a little more terrified of his character.
Now, okay, let's discuss this. So like we said, the Leatherface isn't very prominent in this movie. Instead, Matthew McConaughey is really the villain we see the most of. Yeah. The antagonist. I personally really enjoyed his performance.
I really enjoyed his performance.
I think he was very, out there, very physical performance, and I enjoyed that. It seemed like he was very interested in doing the movie. And afterwards, I found out that he was actually supposed to play a different character altogether.
I did read that too.
That he was going to be in a motorcycle at the beginning of the movie, and he was going to be the savior at the end for Jenny. But that instead, he proposed that he auditioned for the role of Vilmer instead. Well,
the way that I read about it was that they asked, "Hey, do you have any friends who could audition for the villain?" And he was like, "Yeah, I do." And he walked out, and he was like, "What the hell am I doing?" kind of thing, and went back and was like, "Actually, can I do it?"
Yeah.
And then they liked him and they hired him on the spot.
Well, good for him because I think he nailed it.
I don't think anybody else could have done it.
And I think a lot of people look down on this movie. And I heard that apparently in his memoir, his personal biography, that he said that this role was one of the favorites that he has had the opportunity to partake in.
Really?
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey, we need you in more horror movies because he's been in a couple.
He has, huh?
He has.
Okay.
I believe he was also in the movie called Frailty, which was very very eerie. It's a very good movie.
Yeah, well, I think he gave a great performance. I actually don't mind. You know, it's hard to think of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film without a lot of Leatherface and a lot of chainsaw.
Yeah.
But for it lacking those things, Matthew McConaughey isn't a bad thing to make up for it.
Yeah, I really enjoy his performance. I have a lot of fun with it because like he really gets into it. Does like
he really does
maniacal laughing and stuff.
You can see like his veins bulging out his neck when he's like yelling
and the big eyes. Like
yeah.
it's just he did so good.
I agree.
Even though I don't think that this is definitely like up front, it's not my favorite. Mm-hmm. Not my favorite at all. I still think the OG is still going to be number one for me. I'm just going to give you guys a little heads up.
A little spoiler there. For later on.
Yeah. But he shows up, kills the rando boy, and then he runs over Sean about 1 billion freaking times.
Yeah. Too many times.
Times.
I'm not really interested.
And he like goes forward, then goes backwards, then goes forward, then goes backwards, then goes forward. And then I'm like, bro, he's dead. Stop.
Jenny decides to go check up on him. Meanwhile, Barry and Heather. I don't know why I keep forgetting her name. Barry and Heather split off and find this house. And of course,
their banter is awful. And it makes me so upset because he literally says something to her like, you need to lose 20 pounds.
Yeah.
If a man's ever said, if a man has ever told you that, kill him. Just kidding, don't do that. But definitely punch him in the mouth because or tell them to lose weight. That's just rude. We don't do that. And then, like,
well, don't tell them to lose weight because then you're just
keeping
the cyclical violence. Yeah, exactly.
But they can dish it but can't take it. That's my advice. So if they can dish it out, and then if you start reciprocating that energy, and then they can't handle it, they're a little bitch ass baby, and you need to tell them. Anyway,
that's toxic.
I don't care. I don't like when people do that to people.
Yeah, no, it's awful. He's such a crabhead.
He's terrible, and he calls her a bitch to her face. Like, awful.
I actually really like this scene just because of how Heather, like I said previously, like stands up for herself, explains it how it is. She knows how crappy he is and how much of an idiot he is, and despite that, she's like, you know, I'm in control. You know, she is making the decision to be with him and live this kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, but it's also just kind of sad.
It is sad, yeah, definitely.
Because it's like you could do and want much better for yourself. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's sad. And then of course she has this conversation with Barry, and Barry's like, "Well, why didn't you just tell me that?" And I'm like, it probably went way over his head. He's a moron. Still.
Yeah,
literally
definitely
so dumb. But you know, whatever. They seem to be happy, but they won't be happy for long.
No, I don't think they're happy to begin with, really.
No, not really. No. They just tolerate each other, which sucks.
They end up approaching this house, and I think to myself, oh my gosh, you're in Texas. I live in the South. Everybody has a gun, and these people are just like jamming on the door, gonna walk out into their backyard. I could never.
Yeah.
And they end up coming across one of the household members in, what's his name?
W.E. is his name. And which is really funny. Because it makes me think of like poets and stuff. Because he's quoting these poets and like,
I really like that.
And these famous literary like authors throughout the movie. I do like that too. It's a very fun like thing about his character. Yeah. Like he's like quoting Ralph Waldo Emerson, Voltaire. He says Billy Shakespeare instead of William Shakespeare, which makes me uncomfy, but it's kind of funny.
It's funny, yeah.
But I don't know. I was like, okay.
So my interpretation of his character is mostly because of his physique. Mm-hmm. I think he's the stand-in for Shock Top and the Hitchhiker in the first film.
I would think so.
And I really like the iteration that they did for him. Like I really like you said, the quotes. I kind of like.
There's like a level of intelligence there. Mm-hmm. It's not that like the previous characters are not intelligent, but they all have their own. Everyone has their own intelligence and their own like strengths in general. Because not everyone, like, for example, just like, you know, some people might be good at math and science, and some people might be good at language and literature and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think that maybe his strong suit is maybe he's like well read.
Yeah, potentially. What I like about it too is I feel like it finally give a different take.
Yeah.
And a series of movies that like often repeat themselves.
And they also make them seem like they're less intelligent.
Sure.
Or
yeah.
Like they're just hillbillies. Like they just chalk it up to they're just. I don't know the way that they portray them, and he is not overly like the overly southern like accent kind of thing. He doesn't have that. He's not like saying dumb things. Well, he does have a couple of moments where like he says something incorrectly, but it's still like you understand what he's saying at the same time. For sure, But these quotes, like, he's well read. I don't know. I just enjoyed it. It's different.
But I think part of that leads to an unfortunate thing about his character, where I feel like he wasn't featured very much, and he was disposed of later in the film for absolutely no reason.
Absolutely no reason, other than they're all killers. But
yeah, but we'll get to this insane twist at the end of the movie here in a bit. But because of this, he is led back into the house because he has a shotgun, and pushes Barry into the house. Meanwhile, Heather was in the front porch sitting on the swing set, and Leatherface came up behind her, was trying to sniff her hair, touch her hair.
Do you think you would notice or feel when someone's behind you like that? I feel like I have a good sense of, like, I don't know. Like,
isn't that strange, though, that we can typically feel when people are looking at us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, I feel like if I felt things like that, like, my instinct is to, like, look around me because not because of the horror movies, but just because, just like,
generally
bugs.
Yeah.
I don't want a bug in my hair, like, just things like that. So, like, she literally is just, like, adjusting her crown both times.
And also for him to walk out there, and the porch is probably squeaky. I mean, there's like wood probably.
And he's not like a small dude. Like, he's he's a tall dude and big in stature and stuff. So he's just, I feel like that would, like, kind of, like, cower over you, like, just hover, and you just don't, like, no sense of awareness, even though she has this other awareness.
Right.
It's just ironic.
Eventually, yeah, you're right. Actually, eventually she does turn around and they get into a tussle, very reminiscent of the first film. I have a couple of things to talk about this. It's the first time we're seeing Leatherface in the movie,
right? Which is a little too late, but whatever.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the way he looks is just fine. Like, he has like curly hair, like a mullet. I think his outfit is just a worse version of like the original.
I don't like it at all. I think, like, even though, like, in the previous ones, like, he was still wearing like a button-up shirt kind of thing with an apron and whatnot. Like, it felt very like they did not tend to this character the way that they should have. But he wasn't the star of this film, truthfully.
No, not at all. The other thing I wanted to talk about besides his appearance is just this tussle they have with each other, the struggle between Heather and Leatherface. Because I do think, like we were talking about earlier about like sexuality in horror movies, I think there is a nature in this movie, tell me if you felt it too, where like, is there, I don't even know what the term is. Like, she's wearing like a prom dress, right? Because they were all supposed to go to prom. And in this situation where they're struggling against each other, it's like her dress starts getting pulled back.
Yep. I noticed that too.
You see more of her.
You see her ass cheeks a little bit at some point.
So I wonder, unfortunately, because of the nature of that kind of thing, there are people out there probably like who are getting off to it somehow and thinking like, or in general, men who like, those things become tied with each other, like horror,
intrinsically linked kind of thing.
And well, I was very uncomfortable watching it because this is like
the struggle.
Yeah, it's just like, this is real too. Like women go through this, obviously, where like, you know, that's a big fear of like being taken like that by somebody who's a man who's bigger and stronger than you, and that's what happens in the movie. So it is horrifying, and I wonder how much of that is like intentional, like it's meant to be horrifying, or if any of the filmmakers also meant it to be entertaining in a different way.
I don't know. One thing I did notice is that it was very much a callback to the original. Because if you remember, I don't remember the character's name.
Me neither.
I don't remember her name. But I know that it was the one who was wearing the really cute outfit. Like, it was like the cute halter top with some booty shorts kind of thing. She got grabbed like that. And that was like that famous GIF is from.
Yeah.
So
but
there was that. And
I didn't feel that. I felt that was just horrifying. I didn't feel uncomfortable necessarily while I was watching that one.
This one like went on for way too long, I would say. It
you
went
think
on
that's what it is?
Way too long. And there's a part where he like kind of grabbed at her dress kind of thing. And I was like, is he about to like rip her dress off?
There's a lot of those moments in this movie, I think. Like, it's not like not just this part, but later on we have little parts with Matthew McConaughey's character that I feel like are similar.
There was it was very sexual, I would say.
Yeah.
And
so,
it made me uncomfortable for sure.
Me too. Yeah, exactly.
Like, especially later when Heather, like when there's like this weird like thing in like the kitchen and Heather like he like forces her to kiss him kind of thing, but then like he like lifts his face up and he's got blood on his teeth and stuff. So I'm like, obviously he did something, but we're not entirely sure what.
Yeah.
But
in general, like talking about that for a second longer, I think those two characters, Darla and Velmer, have like a very one of those like abusive relationships where like they hit each other and then make out. Like, and I think, you know, obviously I think it comes more from Velmer, but I do think Darla also does it
for sure. But this was uncomfortable for me to watch. This was the most I have seen something like this in a horror movie, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Especially like as a couple. But again, they changed that family dynamic of that family unit. So it's like W.E. is a roommate, is what it feels like, and Vilmer is there.
Vilmer and Leatherface, I think, are brothers. Because at some point, Darla...
No, because he says your brother.
To who?
To Vilmer. Yeah, Vilmer. You said Vilmer. If Vilmer and Leatherface are brothers, because W.E. mentions like your brother, and then him and Darla are together, and so W.E. I guess just feels like
a roommate, maybe cousin or something.
I don't know.
Right. We see the hook again.
Yes, which is another callback to the original.
It's a callback. I always think about Dead by Daylight, which I've been playing a lot of lately.
I also think of Dead by Daylight.
It's cool to know that this is where it came from. We see the like freezer again. It doesn't appear to be on.
It doesn't. I imagine it's probably stinky.
Probably super freaking stinky.
Probably stinky. That whole house. I bet that whole house is so stinky.
Yeah, it's a mess in there.
Because freaking Barry was in there and he just like casually like taking a piss, and then I'm like,
I thought that was so crazy, my guy. Don't you know you got like 10 minutes to live?
And then like you wouldn't be looking around you or anything, like, and then like you wouldn't smell the dead body that's just reeking in the tub, like.
Right.
Ew, I don't
know. He's a little too, I don't even know what the word is. Maybe just entitled, thinking like, oh, everything's going to be okay ultimately, you know.
Oblivious, maybe, that too.
Yeah, I agree with you. But
well, there's also, like I said, that there is like, this huge sense of invincibility.
I agree with you, yeah, that he has. And I think that is something we see in the real world.
Yeah.
So I think that is interesting, especially with people like him, you know, where he talks about his father's a doctor.
Yeah.
He is the second one to, you know, face their fate.
And there wasn't a lot of anything happening there.
I think I blinked and I missed it.
It was literally a bonk. Barry got bonked in the head. Like, yeah.
Well, that's like the first one too.
Yeah.
They just get, it's a one-shot kill with like this hammer that they just tap on you.
Which was funny. I really wanted a more gruesome death for him just because I did not like his character. I literally wrote down, I pray for his gruesome death. Because he calls Heather names, and like is a conceited asshole.
Yeah, very Geraldine.
I said, ooh, his death will be sweet. And then I said, shut up with your frilly ass shirt, because he was wearing this ugly frilly shirt for prom. What are you?
You didn't like
this
it.
This isn't the 1800s.
It reminded you of Bowie in Labyrinth.
Like Bowie could pull that off. Bowie could pull that off.
Oh, Bowie can pull anything off. I was listening to him on the way here.
We love David Bowie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought Heather was about to get got again. I don't know. This was just it was so chaotic because they were going back and forth. This was all happening at the same time. And
then, Jenny eventually gets back into the house, and they have this whole like 20-minute run of like Jenny getting away and Jenny getting caught again. Jenny getting away, Jenny getting caught again. She eventually jumps out of like the top story of the house.
There was a stunt double, and it was hilarious because it was absolutely not her. I noticed that one this time. Mm-hmm. Okay. It was because it looked like a muscular man or a very muscular woman.
Well, that's a callback to the first one too, because there's at the end scene when her name is Sarah, where she Sally, when Sally gets up and jumps out of the window in her movie, it's totally a stunt double.
But also, like, it gave me so much anxiety. This chase on the roof, I was like,
I thought she was gonna jump out and hit the floor.
I thought so
like
too.
And scream, but she ends up okay.
It was weird.
We finally get to like another dinner scene. These movies cannot go without having a dinner scene.
I'm so tired of those dinner scenes. I don't care about your family. Stop.
They have a dinner scene in every movie. And like in the first one, I enjoyed it. You know, we got a lot of her screaming, a lot of those eye close-ups.
Yeah.
We got them like she's screaming and then they start screaming, you know, and laughing. And I thought that was really cool. But now we're seeing it for the fourth time and I'm done.
I'm so done with it too. I don't want to see it anymore. I was like, please, why?
But I think by this point in the movie, it's all gets haywire.
This is when it really takes a turn for the absolute worst. And I was like, am I like high or something watching this? Literally, like, what is happening?
Early in the film, Darla ended up telling Jenny, like, you know, man, like have you ever heard about like there's people out there just controlling everything?
So weird.
So weird. And by the time we get to the dinner scene, it turns out that is an actual part of the film where a couple of people come to the door and they appear to be members of the Illuminati or some secret organization.
They don't ever say, do they?
I'm not sure.
I know Darla is under the belief that it's like the FBI, but they also mentioned like the FBI is under, like this house is under FBI surveillance 24/7 kind of thing. And I'm like, so is this the FBI? Are they in on it? Like, what is happening?
I don't know, but some weird stuff starts happening. Like he opens up his shirt and it looks like 3 piercings.
It looks like nipples.
And this is another part where I was worried. You know, earlier before this, we had Matthew McConaughey being a little sensual with Jenny. And now we have this other gentleman approaching her, like taking his clothes off, like unbuttoning his shirt. And I'm like, oh no. Like I'm immediately, like I'm not getting good vibes from this.
There was so much like so much of this was so sexualized. And I was like, why?
It makes me uncomfortable. And I think personally, you know, I was asking you about it earlier, but I think the filmmakers, like they added this aspect that they thought people would enjoy. And just by being men themselves, I think they, you know, just don't know how this comes off to other people.
Well, it's kind of like, okay.
Because I don't think it was intentional.
Right. But it's like, have you ever seen people kissing in public and you're like, ew, get a room. Yeah. And you're like, but to them, they probably think they look glamorous like in movies or something. To them, they're probably like, this is hot. But like when you're seeing them, everyone's like, ew, please stop. Isn't that funny?
Are you anti-PDA, like in your own relationship?
I mean, I'll hold your hand, give you like little pop kisses in public and stuff like that. Like, I don't care.
But like, you're at line like, in Disney World.
Well, I mean, like, for example, at my job where I work, people get a little too tipsy sometimes. It happens, you know. People Uber home, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But there was this couple sitting at the bar, and they were like full on making out, and we were like, bro, this is a restaurant. Go home.
Do you have any? Okay, so I want to tell you, like, typically when, you know, me and my partner go out, we sit across from each other.
I sit across from my person. I don't ever same side seat.
What do you think about same side seating?
I think it's uncomfortable as fuck, and you're putting everyone in a weird position.
Everybody?
Yes.
Like who?
Well, okay. Well, me, the person who talks to you at the table.
The server.
I'm not a server.
Typically.
But yeah. It's just weird because what am I supposed to do with this other like spot? Do I sit here and talk to you guys from across the table? Like, what's happening here?
What about? I think it's awkward for me because it's like to look at you instead of just naturally looking forward. I have to look to the side.
Exactly. The only time I'm okay with same side seating is if there are other people involved. Of course,
right.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
But if not, I don't like it.
I also don't like it. I think it's also a little too intimate publicly. In a weird way. I know we're just talking about like PDA.
But like I also want my space so that I can eat my food comfortably.
Yeah.
Keep my area spread out because
you're kind of squeezed in there, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because like my boyfriend will typically he makes me sit on the inside if I do sit on same side seating kind of situations like that. He'll make me sit on the inside.
Oh, he particularly wants the outside seat?
He likes the outside seat.
Why is that?
I don't know, because he hates me. I eat with, we're both right-handed, so we both eat with our right hand. So his right hand's always in my area, and then my right hand like is just struggling, and then I'm like, this is too much. Like if I have to cut, I do like hold my fork right here, and then it's like just too much. There's not enough room.
Now this is a weird question that I feel like is obvious to most people, probably you too, and other people, but I have a different take on it. There's a third person.
There's a third person. I will same side seat. They can sit across.
Same side seat with who?
So I'll same side seat with my partner.
I sit across from my partner.
Or if it's like your parent or something, I like to see everyone's faces as well. I would prefer to see everyone's faces. So like, say for instance, me, you, and another friend go out or something.
Okay.
I would want to sit across from you guys.
So you want your partner sitting across from you?
I wouldn't care. I just would want to see everyone's faces.
So I'm the same way. Yeah, like I feel like typically the idea would be like you sit by your partner and the other person would be across. Yeah. But I'm like you. I'd rather look at everybody. Yeah. So I'll have my partner sitting next to my friend or whatever.
But typically, if we do have a third person involved, typically I'll sit next to sit next to him.
You say it like it's a drag.
Because I don't like same-side seating unless it's like absolutely necessary.
Right.
Because unless we're on the couch and that's like the vibe. But otherwise, typically, if we have like a love seat and a couch, I'll sit on the love seat so I can see him and enjoy what we're doing.
Yeah. Like, I'm with you 100%, but I know there's people listening who are like, no, I just want to be as close to whoever.
Feel slandered. I want you to feel slandered. Yeah, Yeah, I don't know. It's this whole like family dynamic, and then all of these people. There's so many people here, and
There's a lot of people,
which is really funny because Patrick walked in on me watching it, and he was like, "Are they all dead?" I was like, "I guess I don't know."
I think the 3 are dead, and the grandpa's alive again. This is the most physically mobile grandpa we've seen.
It literally looks like he's just wearing face paint, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm alive. All right, I'm gonna go back to bed now after this debacle." Yeah. It's just so dumb. And I literally thought he had the knife in his hand because I thought he was going to partake in killing someone like they have.
Me too.
Like characterized in the past.
But no, we just skip over that a little bit.
W gets got, and then like Vilmer is like opening his jumpsuit, and he's like, "I'm going to cut my chest to be all tough." And then Darla's like, "No, baby, don't."
Right.
It's so chaotic. There's so much happening.
Yes. I will say that is the most like, for me, or comfortable sensual thing in the movie.
Yeah.
When Matthew McConaughey, you see, his biceps and stuff, obviously he's still doing this awful, like cutting himself or whatever. But I do think this is a lot more comfy than all the other uncomfortable stuff that we've
didn't feel like he was trying to be weird. He was just trying to like, I'm tough. Ugh.
Yeah, exactly. But this gentleman comes up, this, I don't know, secret organization guy who has this weird triple clamp tummy. Comes up and starts licking.
Oh
Jenny's
my God.
face.
Yes. I was like, what is happening? I was so freaked out.
Yeah.
I was like, what is happening right now? Why is he licking her face like a dog? He literally licks both sides of her face twice.
Yes.
Like whole sides, like. And I was like, please stop.
So is this movie completing its job? Is this doing its job by making us feel this way?
I don't know.
I don't either, because I'm uncomfortable. I'm not particularly enjoying it. I'm actually not. I'm sad. I'm not enjoying it.
Yeah.
But it is getting a reaction out of me for sure.
You know what? I still have a question about what the fuck is happening with Vilmer's. I was said Wilmer. Vilmer's leg. What is this? I don't understand why he needs like remote controls to move it.
I think he can't move his leg. I think he has suffered some kind of injury that's left that leg paralyzed, and this mechanism is what helps move him.
It's so strange because then there's this weird sexual scene with him and Darla where she's like moving his leg on purpose with the remotes, and then I was like, what is happening? And then they like make out, but then they like, I don't know, throw each other around, push each other. It was so weird.
They like I think that's been represented before in like movies like Harley Quinn and the Joker, or like that one Rihanna song with Eminem.
Yeah. But either way, that's when we find out she's got a husband, whatever. And then we get the dinner scene, which was again so confusing because I was just like, what are we going on about?
I do like this part though, because at some point during this whole altercation, Jenny stands up for herself.
Yeah.
And like Leatherface stands up and she's like, "You sit back down," and he does.
No.
So I do like that Jenny has like like flipping the script a little bit. She kind of becomes in charge. You see it a little bit earlier too when she picks up the shotgun and starts aiming it at them.
First of all, Renee Zellweger's got some guns, literally. Got some guns. I was like, whoa.
Nice.
Another thing that I forgot to mention that I thought was uncomfortable is when Heather was talking to Barry in the woods about her like Jenny's upbringing and how like her mom,
so weird.
Like her mom gets married every 15 minutes,
yeah,
and the guy beats her and she just has to deal with it, kind of thing. Which would make sense why she's so hyper aware.
Sure, yeah.
But also then she like kind of sexualizes Jenny and was like, she's got like a really nice body.
Like you wouldn't know, but we like in the locker room, I've seen it.
And then Barry was like, "Oh, really?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Stop immediately! Why are you telling him about her body?"
Well, because it was written by a man, and like obviously this doesn't seem like a naturally thing like that would happen. You know?
Nobody would say that about their friends to their boyfriend.
Not like that.
Not like that.
No.
And like that reaction too is just like, I'm not a fan of what's happening here.
Yeah, it's just and we've talked about it a lot throughout this podcast, but I do think like that is one of the main like reactions I got out of it. Just like all of like the male gaze. Yeah, exactly.
The male gaze. It is like
and see. Usually it's like whatever, you see it prominent everywhere.
Yeah.
Most things, were made by, these a-holes. But in this one, it becomes slightly problematic for me because it almost seems like the male gaze of harassment
Yes.
You know, and like abuse and stuff. And so I'm like, I don't think the movie doesn't feel self-aware enough for me to be like, oh yeah, that's the intention. I do think there is a level of indulgence that the filmmakers and probably a lot of the audience got from it.
Yuck.
Yeah.
Just yuck. Oh my gosh. So before Jenny is even at the house, before this, any of this takes place again, she escapes from the situation when she's on the roof. Like, she ends up somehow escaping, and then she runs to Darla's. And then Darla's like, oh my gosh, I'll save you. And then she calls W.E. And then they, like, put her in the trunk, but they have, like, this shock wand thing, and then he beats the crap out of her with it.
I really like this scene because first, when we see Darla again back at the office, you know, Jenny's, you know, trying to escape and get her help. I was thinking, they're doing the thing again from the first movie. Now, are they going to go the same route? Because I wasn't sure.
It was weird.
I wasn't sure if Darla was going to end up being a good guy or a bad guy at this point.
It's like she's a victim of what's happening. And I think, like, she's like participating, but she's also like, she doesn't know what she's doing. She doesn't know how to do it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Because okay, so she has her in the trunk, and then she's screaming, and then they go to this drive-through to pick up pizza, which is hilarious. This is a hilarious,
I like that scene. Yeah,
hilarious scene because the guy's like, their trunk's making noise. Dumb pizza boy, dumb. And she's like, oh, you want to see it? And then he's like, yeah. I'm like, what? No. No. Why would you want to see it?
I don't think he does. I think the way her voice, you know, he thinks like, oh, this is going somewhere romantically or something.
Oh, of course, male gaze. Anyway, and then she's opened the trunk because she has to deal with that. And then the cops show up, and then they are not fazed by it either. Yeah. He's like, what's in your trunk, ma'am? She's like, you don't want to know. Right. That to me sounds suspicious. And I'd be like, open your damn trunk.
Okay, so
but you can't do that without a warrant anyway.
Here's what I think. Like, I do think Darla shows off some characteristics in moments of sympathy. Yeah. With it, like, you know, she isn't capable of like beating Heather the way she knows she needs to.
She literally beat her with a stick, but it was like not like it's like if someone were to be like, hit me, I'd be like, oh, I don't want to hurt you, kind of thing. It's like that's what it felt like.
But to me, I don't think showing like some compassion in this makes you a victim. Like, I think she's still guilty just because like
she is.
Like, if this was anybody else, like if you're gonna kill them but you're still like nice to them and like try to be caring, if anything, that could be like self-fulfilling for her. She might not be doing it because she cares for them, but because she wants to come off as a caring person. And I think just because she's kind of nice to them every once in a while doesn't make her a victim, personally.
No, but I mean, like, I don't know. I think that there's just some level of, like, innocence about what is going on. She fully is aware that they are killing people and harming people, but I think that she also, I don't know, hopes that they won't, and maybe is like, because she's really kind to Jenny, and like
I think she's playing with her food is what it is.
You think it is?
Yeah, I don't think she's genuinely kind.
That's what was my initial thought too, but then I was like, I don't know. It could be something.
No,
weird.
You're right. It isn't very forward, and I think that's what a lot of things in this movie are confusing, and that's one of them. Confusing. Where like you expect things to go one way and they don't, and so you're left wondering what's the intention. That's another problem with the
script is that it like starts off really strong and then plateaus so hard, then you're like, what?
Yeah, well, like throughout, by the time the movie really gets going, like it doesn't take long to be like, what's going on? What's happening? What is this about? Mm-hmm. By the time the movie ended, I was thinking, what did we do? Like, what was the point of this? Mm-hmm. Like, what was the theme, the message? Like what, I needed an explanation.
Yeah, there was not a lot going on there.
Because I didn't understand.
Right. But I mean, like, she even like, she's like, oh, you got to be quiet in my trunk. I'm going to, if I poke a hole in the bag so you can breathe.
Will you shut up?
Will you shut up? And she's like, yes. I was like, this whole back and forth scene too was weird to me. But I was like, okay, like, I guess this is what's happening. And then, I don't know. It was weird. Heather was still alive. We run into her. And then she's like, okay, well, please stay here. Just stay here, kind of thing. And
Heather kind of trudges along for the rest of the movie. She's just there, like her body's there. Like she doesn't have any lines, she doesn't do anything, but she keeps on being in the movie until Matthew McConaughey gets worked up, because once the secret organization gentleman comes in and tells him like off a little bit, like, hey, you're here to do one thing and one thing only, and he says something about like be horrifying or something.
Yeah, he said something like, I want these people to know like the true meaning of horror, and I was like, what? Is
this self-referential? Like, what is?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what he meant by that.
I don't know either.
What his intentions are.
I was like, huh?
But when he left, Velmer was pissed.
Yeah.
He was mad. I don't know why.
And then this next scene was uncomfortable because I was like, what is he doing? He like kills Heather by like stepping on her, like
crushing her skull using his robot leg.
And you can hear bones cracking.
Yeah.
But like it's either I was like so confused by his performance at this point, because I was like, is he getting off right now, or is he like?
He has a couple of those scenes, yeah.
I was like, if it felt like he was either one getting off, or he was like just really like struggling to kill her at the moment. Like,
I think he enjoyed it.
Uncomfy.
Yeah. And then he starts cutting himself again.
But like in multiple places.
Yeah.
And then he's like screaming and like that's another gripe that I have, by the way, is Leatherface screaming so much in this movie.
Yeah, and it's kind of not fun for the ears.
No, it's not.
It's kind of like, I feel like, don't get me wrong, in the first movie, Sally like just screamed her head off.
Yeah.
But in this movie, yeah, you're right. There's like Leatherface does it a little more than we're used to seeing. We've seen some whimpering before, but I feel like this, dialed up to the max. This finally gives Jenny the opportunity to escape.
Yep.
Velmer, I guess,
and then this whole escape scene was also so chaotic.
So random. I don't know. It's daytime now. Velmer is like fixing his leg with like the remote controller and sends out Leatherface.
I have to talk about the scene because I got a chuckle out of it. When he's doing something, and it was like this whole scene between Leatherface, Velmer, and Jenny finds a remote as well, and they're like going back and forth and clicking back and forth, and I was like, that was like a scene it was just funny to me, because it reminded me of like growing up, like when when siblings, you guys would try to change the channel or something like that, and you're like, I want to watch my show, or you guys would like go turn the volume up or like hold it down, kind of, anything like that. You don't have to do. Did you not ever experience that, like fighting over the TV?
Not really. Me and my siblings got along. We always wanted to watch the same thing.
Oh, well, my brother and I would do that kind of thing. Like he would literally block the TV so that the receptors wouldn't pick up.
That's so funny.
Like we would fight so much over that stuff. So it reminded me of that, and it was
Could you see
so
yourself?
funny.
Are we beyond that?
I'm absolutely beyond that. Okay. I would not fight over that now. Like now I'm pretty chill. I'm like,
wow.
I say that lightly. But like I'm pretty cool to like watch whatever. Like and my brother has decent taste in his older years.
Okay.
So actually no, we did watch a lot of the same things though, like Adventure Time. But he just wouldn't want to watch them at the same time as me.
Fair enough.
He didn't want me to enjoy it with him because I annoyed him a lot of the time.
Did he annoy you?
Not usually, and not unless he was in a bad mood. If he was in a bad mood, then he was mean to everybody. So.
Yeah. But yeah, man, you're right. This whole entire end scene, like where it's bright outside, Leatherface is chasing her.
There's a random RV with this random cute couple, but they're also like drinking and driving with Bloody Marys.
See, that was just funny. Like that was funny. Like, if there was any, like, I didn't think any of the movie was funny besides that one moment, if I'm being honest, where like they're drinking. Hey, I just made some martinis. An elderly couple. They decide at first the lady's like, "Don't stop."
Yeah.
Like you would be. I figure. As we discussed previously. But eventually they swing the door open and she gets inside. But I guess instead of following the track, they decide to run over a big like pile of wood.
I think
like
they were struggling because when they turn around, Leatherface is in like in Vilmer's truck.
That's right.
Doing this dance again.
So I remember. You know what this made me think of? When we watched Texas Chainsaw 2, you complained about like how Leatherface would never do this.
And then they did it.
And now that I see it, I'm like, Leatherface would totally do this.
Well,
because the movies are silly.
They're not meant to be. That's the problem.
You don't think this was meant to be silly?
This one was.
See?
But the first one was not. The first one was truly
The second
horrific.
one was silly too.
The second one was silly, but the second one fucking sucked.
So I think it is a tradition of Texas Chainsaw to be silly. So I do think
not in the new ones. The new ones are horrifying.
Okay. Well, at least originally. So a lot of the early ones, Leatherface does silly things often.
I don't like it. Because to me, that's not terrifying. Because then it's like, okay, are you trying to make me laugh? Are you a little clown boy? Doing little clown things? Because that's not funny.
I also didn't think it was very funny. A plane gets introduced.
For what?
I was like, when the plane came in, I'm like, we're off the rails. We are completely like, what are we doing here?
I wouldn't have been surprised if a fucking UFO came out of
Me
nowhere.
too.
Like,
yeah. I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense now. Eventually, like, I guess it takes down Vilmer somehow. I don't know how, if the blades or if it was just like part of the plane ran him over, but he's out, and Jenny gets picked up by the Illuminati people, and I'm like, why would you get in the car? You just saw these people. But she decides to get in the car. They take her to a hospital.
Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm so sorry. This was appalling. It's gone off the rails, essentially, is what he says. And he's like, so yeah, hospital or police station? I'm like, what?
I thought, yeah.
Then this next scene, she's in the hospital. She's not talking. She's like, traumatized, rightfully so.
Yeah.
Get it? There's a random woman that gets wheeled right next to her.
Yeah.
I was like, who is that?
They make it out to be like, oh wow, look, it's this person.
It's another victim or something, and I'm like, who is that?
Well, you know who it is. The three people at the hospital at the end, the officer she's talking to, the person pushing her and pushing the patient, and the patient are all cameos from the previous films.
Oh, previous films?
The other Texas Chainsaw movies.
Nice.
Who's who? I think the officer was LM from the second movie, if I'm not mistaken, or somebody else. I just know all three of them were previously in Texas Chainsaw movies.
I'm so curious to look it up now. I need to know who is in it.
Okay.
The hospital scene at the end featured 2 actors and 1 actress from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974.
The original, yeah.
Okay, so John Dugan, who played the grandfather in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, is the cop. Oh, yeah, because he was younger. He was a younger guy because that was just makeup. Paul A. Partain, who played Franklin.
What's the guy
He
pushing?
was the orderly.
Oh, Franklin.
Marilyn Burns, who played Sally,
That was
was the
and Sally.
patient.
See, that's why they showed it for a bit. I was also confused. I was like, why are we setting on these
Yeah,
people?
it was just like awkwardly long, and I was like, okay.
Awful way to do a cameo, if I'm being honest, because it's at the very
Terrible way.
end and it means nothing, but we stay on it for no
But like
reason.
we also don't really see the orderly that well.
No, there's just a quick shot of his face.
Confusing.
I would have been happy to come back though and just to do my little bit.
Yeah, but that was it. That was the movie, and then it ends with a sunset.
It ends with a sunset and Leatherface doing a different like dance, like more of a swing,
It was just a hot mess by the end of it.
Yeah. So yeah. So that's Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. It's the last one before the like remakes. I feel like these first 4 are kind of tied in together
A little bit.
and I think for the next one it's probably going to be a different vibe.
The next one is one of my favorites.
So you've seen the next one?
I've seen the next one.
Okay.
Because this is the remake. This is where we enter the remakes. This is the first one with Jessica Biel. Amazing remake. So good. That's what introduced me to this series. I started watching that, I think, when I was middle school age.
Okay, well here I want to talk to you about that then, because like since that's your introduction, now that we've seen these like original 4, were you surprised by them? Like having
Yeah, I was surprised by how bad they were. God.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Don't say that to these people. They're gonna get bad.
Listen,
People love the originals.
No, I love the original, the OG, the 1974 one. I've grown up loving that one. I have seen that one before.
But the other 3 you don't like.
But the other 3 I don't like. The other 3 are like, I could never watch them again and be fine.
Okay.
But the new ones, they have great rewatch value.
So you prefer the new ones over the originals?
Not entirely, because I mean,
Well, it sounds like you only like one of the originals.
Yeah,
And you like several of the new ones.
I don't even count 2, 3, and Next Generation.
They are the originals. They're the first 4.
I don't count them. The first one has a lot of rewatch value. The rest of them don't. But the new ones have a lot of, because the production quality was significantly better, and the actors that they had to play these parts and stuff, amazing.
Well, now it's time to rank The Next Generation.
This might be tough. Okay.
This probably is going to be tough. Do you remember the rankings?
I believe we were in the same boat last time. We had the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Then we had part 3 as the second one, and then part 2 as the third one.
That's the worst one.
We
think the second one is the worst one. Now, where could this possibly fit in? Like, we liked the third one a bit. You know, we liked Benny, I think, was our highlight of the movie.
Yeah, Benny was the highlight.
I think a lot of the killers were interesting, at least between Tink, Tex, the Leatherface we got in that. I think we had our gripes, but ultimately it was just fine.
Yeah.
This movie, I feel like, started off strong, and just by the end of it was completely off the rails. But I think some of the performance, like Matthew McConaughey's, was
still way better.
Was out there. So it's hard because I feel like the third one, I think 3 and 4 are bad in different ways.
Yeah.
I think 3 is just kind of trudging along. It's just not very interesting. And 4 is just like so awfully bad. But I think and it's just so messy. I think what is going to make me make my decision is simply how uncomfortable I was watching this movie.
Yeah.
With all like the sexual tension that we were talking about and the harassment. So for those reasons, me personally, Texas Chainsaw: The Next Generation is last place for me.
Okay. I respect that. I hear you. This is tough. Okay. So I don't think it's as bad as part 2 at all.
Okay.
I still think part 2 I hate so much, but I was uncomfortable watching this one. But there's also the performances were just stellar. Truthfully,
they were better.
Even though I have a lot of gripes with like the Leatherface, it's going third place for me. So worst to best, and bottom place for worst, like the actual worst movie is going to be the second one, the one with Stretch, Lefty, all of that shit.
You really didn't like Stretch and Lefty.
I did not. It was so dumb. Third place is going to be this one, The Next Generation.
Right.
Second place is going to be part 3.
Right.
Because it wasn't as bad, and I really enjoy Benny.
Right.
And then the first place is the original, the OG.
Okay.
1974.
I think that's fair enough. I think I agree with you, and like I think they could be swapped either way, or part 2 is just awful, and then
part 2 is just bottom of the barrel,
and then
that was like trash pile.
Right.
Like I could probably never watch that movie ever again and be fine.
I'd watch that one before I watched this one personally.
I would not watch this one again either, truthfully, but
neither.
Unless I wanted to see somebody else's reaction or make them watch it and then have them tell me about it.
Okay.
But other than that, I'm like, I could do without. I'd rather watch the newer ones. They're so good.
Okay. You like the new ones over the older ones.
I didn't say it like that, though.
Why are you so adamant against saying it like that?
Because I love the original.
But that's just 1 out of 4, 25%.
So?
It sounds like you like more than 25% of the new ones.
I've only seen 2 out of the 5 of them.
Okay, so let's see what's that. That's 40%.
So I guess it's simple math, I guess.
But thank you for listening, guys. I hope you join us for the next one. It sounds like I'm gonna get a good one for once.
Oh, the next one's gonna be fantastic. I'm excited. It's the regular just Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I believe, but I don't remember what the year it was made. But it's the one with Jessica Biel. So if you guys at home know what I'm talking about, then you know. You just know.
All right. Follow us on social media at Fright Flight Pod, Spotify, TikTok, Instagram. Even
Apple Podcasts or Audible, wherever you get your podcasts. So you get notifications when we post things. YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. We have a YouTube. If you want to see us in like video form.
In the flesh.
You can see us.
In the flesh, if you want to see our faces, our wonderful faces, to put a face with the voice and the name.
To put a face?
Yeah.
Leatherface, yeah.
Yeah. Except for we don't look like Leatherface.
No.
But you should still do that anyway, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Fright or Flight, a Live Oaks Village production. This episode was hosted by Geraldine Johnson and Saul Alberto Arzmendi Ochoa. Edited by Geraldine Johnson and music composition by Saul Alberto Arzmendi Ochoa.